you, Dinesh. I'm so honored and happy to be with all of you.
Okay.
So those of you who are on your phone, if you don't know this feature, sometimes it's a little confusing. If you're seeing a panel of people or screens, you just swipe usually to see the presentation. This is an experiential exercise and just a brief introduction, as we're all going through such a fascinating, interesting time. And I know there's a lot of stress, and a lot of my clients are saying that there's more stress eating, and this is a practice if you can get yourself, if you haven't already, some morsel of food. It can be a raisin or a chocolate chip or something like that, or the best. It can also be a piece of fruit or a nut or just any single thing you want. I like to start with the story, and it's a true story. And for me, it's the roots of when I, in a sense, first learned about this practice that we now, a lot of people call mindful eating, and I love to call conscious eating. It's really a beautiful practice. And I learned about it about 25 years ago. Very obscure. I came across this macrobiotic guru, and I was exploring my own healing for digestive issues. And he tells this fascinating story about his own father. His father, Antonio Stancic, who Yugoslavian, was in a Nazi German concentration camp in 1943, where they were in a German factory doing hard labor. And it was bitterly cold, he says, and you can imagine, and I hope you can't imagine too well, knowing, what we're all going through, but they had very little to eat. Breakfast, he said, was chicory coffee sometimes, and a piece of bread if they were lucky. Lunch and dinner might be soup with potatoes, again, if they were lucky, and it wasn't always there, and people were dying around him, starving to death every day. It was brutal conditions, as we all know. And with this piece of bread, he started to experiment chewing it more. And he chewed it 30, 50 times, and he started to notice that he thought he felt more energy, or was somehow getting more nourishment back, Sachin, to the other side. And so he started to experiment with 100 times per bite. He would count them, and up to 300 times a bite. And he really felt this incredible difference, and he shared it with the other prisoners in the camp. And most people scoffed at him, except for two others adopted this practice, and they found like this magic number they said was 150 bites. And he said he'd feel, warmer in the cold nights, and he felt more energy, as I say. And so as the story goes, and very true story, is that of the 32 prisoners, there were 3 survivors. It was Lino Stancic's father, Antonio, and the 2 other people who had been practicing this practice. And so at the time, he had a program. His son, who had also had an incredible story, was very interesting, very similar. And he invented this program. And back in the day when there were cassette tapes and we would press play and listen, I had a tape of his, and on one side, I think it would play beautiful piano music, and every 60 seconds, you would hear. And that was the signal to swallow. And on the other side of the tape, it went for 90 seconds, just this beautiful classical piano. And then you would swallow 90 seconds. It was a lot of chewing. And anyway, that was my introduction. My thumbs up as a scientist, touching to move it. And so later, I got more interested in meditation and went on many retreats and got into nutrition. And when I came across mindful eating, which is an entire movement that many of you have probably heard of because it gained a lot of steam, I just thought, wow. It was about a decade ago. And I thought, this is meditation meets nutrition. This is like my ideal. And I got very passionate about it. And so the Mahatma Gandhi is attributed to the quote you see here is, eat your food and chew your drink. Just think about that. And if you've ever experienced that it's real practice. And that's what he would do. Antonio Stanchi said he would drink water and leave it on his tongue until it was warm and chew it, and he felt more energy. And so he found it was a very healing practice. But to say that this is only one aspect of the practice of being more conscious when we're eating, there are many different paths, just like there are many different paths to finding healing, or there are many different paths in meditation and they lead us to the same. This is really a practice, and the practice is of being present when we eat, to eat when we eat, we walk when we walk, we listen to music when we listen to music. But so often, right, our attention in these days is so divided, and so it's really just a practice, and it's really an experiential practice. It's nothing that we can talk about, and that's why we're going to do a practice with it. And there are amazing benefits and a lot of research that's now gone into this more conscious eating that are related to health benefits, such as lowering blood sugars, weight management, and stress reduction. And they work with people who have more binge eating or stress and emotional eating, and it can minimize that. So really, again, it has benefits, but the benefits are only what we experience. And so I think let's experience it. First, I like to show you that there's two ways that we're distracted in this world. One is external distraction, and those of you who are seeing the slides, it's two people on their cell phones, as many of us have experienced either at home or in restaurants, eating, but just completely occupied with our other conversations going on. So there's so many external distractions, and if you look at it in today's world, so many of us are, I don't know, are we doing like, we're in this frenzy of Zoom meetings, and maybe we're hooked on the news and so many stressful things going around us. So there's some external distractions going on often when we eat, and that can be a distraction from the actual food. And I'm giving my thumbs up for and there's also an internal conversation often going on where it's almost like there might be clutter in our mind, or our minds might be very peaceful. For example, when we were doing the breathing meditation with Sachin, it often goes from this frenetic energy in the beginning, and then after just a few minutes, we feel that calm peacefulness that taps into that inner silence. And so the point is that distraction and not being present come from many places. It's, an example, if you're eating a meal and you've ever had the most incredible meal in your life. We've all had this experience where you taste every single bite and you say, oh, this is delicious. And then maybe we've had the experience where we don't even remember, maybe you're in between meetings and you grab one of those bars and you open it and you take a bite and then you look and it's gone, or there's clutter on the table, or you're watching the news or talking to somebody when you're doing it. And so there's a very different experience, and being conscious is really just a practice in being present, just like any other practice. It's very simple. There's nothing to it except for bringing yourself back to the present moment. And this is where we go into our experience. So if you haven't grabbed a piece of food, I hope you have one, but if you don't, I'm taking Dinesh's comment. He told me earlier that he gives his wife, you have something, virtual chocolate, which is so beautiful. So if you don't happen to have anything to eat, you can do this with your imagination. But if you have a moment and you have something in your hand, and if you can chat out and let me know a few of the things that you do have in your hand, and let me know, Dinesh or the moderator, so that I just have a little focus for this. Can anybody say what they have? And is there a raisin or chocolate or blueberry? I see a grape. I see tea. Oh, tea will be really interesting. Cashew, good. Anything else? Almonds. So we're going to be doing this with very different things. A few people have almonds. These are great. Anything else? We have almonds and tea and coconut. How interesting. And mango smoothie. Okay. And a small piece of cookie. walnuts. I'm going to come back to why we often do this with something like the small piece of cookie or chocolate, and it works so well. So I want my cookie person to comment. All right, so thank you for commenting on that. So here we go. I would like you to start by holding, hopefully you haven't put it in your mouth. Did you just put it in your mouth, Dinesh? Don't put it in your mouth. I should have said that. Okay, the first thing you want to do is hold it in your hand. If it's a cup of tea or something like that, hold that tea in your hand, get comfortable and close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and just be there, holding that little morsel of food or drink in your hand. Close your eyes, tune into your breath, and just center yourself and do your best just to be in the present moment, right here, right now. And now, open your eyes. And right now, take a look at this object in your hand, but really look at it. Look at it as if you've never, ever seen this before. Notice what color is it? The shape? Does it have a texture? If it's liquid, is it moving? What does it feel like in your hand? And I invite you to even think about the journey it took to be in your hand right now. How was it created and in front of you right now? And now start to imagine, what will it taste like? Perhaps your mouth is watering, and you might have thoughts, you've tasted this before, you have other associations. And how will it be to eat it or drink it? And go ahead and bring it up to your nose and smell it. Does it have a smell?
Yes.
Then how does it smell to you? And now close your eyes again, and without chewing, I want you to take, some of you have something to drink, so take a sip or put this on your tongue, a little morsel or a bite of this onto your tongue without chewing, and just let it sit on your tongue, Antonio Stanchich style, and swirl it around. And notice if it's starting to break down. Is the taste changing? Just noticing any sensations, any thoughts, if your mouth is watering. And now, as you're ready, begin to chew. Even if it's liquid, chew this bite with your mind in this sharp focus of savoring. And don't do anything else while you're chewing. So very, very similar to the breathing. Once you notice your mind is wandering, bring it back to the taste. Notice if the taste is changing. Keep paying attention. Keep bringing your mind back and keep chewing it until it's uniformly smooth. Those of you with liquid, I'm sure it already is, but use the consistency or the feeling or when you're ready as a signal to swallow. And then keeping your eyes closed, noticing that mechanism to swallow is so natural. It's like breath. We don't have to think about swallowing typically. But just think for a moment, how was this experience for you? And what was it like? How was it different than the last time you tasted a cashew or a piece of cookie or what else do we have? Tea or coconut. And as you're ready, open your eyes. And go ahead and, if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear, just chat out the experience. What was this like? Or I don't know if we have voices, but But it's really helpful to hear the experience. There's no right or wrong of this. And even if you've done this before, it's just being in the present moment. It's often different. When we do this exercise, by the way, such as a conscious eating retreat, we often give the choice and continue this with, are you interested in another one? So that's why we often do this with, chocolate chips or cookies. So is the moderator going to tell me some of the comments? So this is my cashew tasted more tastier and sweet. That's a very common experience. Sometimes when we eat, there's a mindful eating, I guess, saying, if you love it, savor it, and if you don't love it, don't eat it. And that's how it gets you in touch with, well, do I really love it? And we often do this with foods like nuts or raisins or chocolate chips or something that we just mindlessly eat, because we begin to slow down and say, wow, I really love this. The flavor is more pronounced, somebody says, because of the meditation of the food. It can be an incredible experience. And it's not that we would have time to do this every time. Somebody said, I didn't want to chew. I'm holding it with my tongue to the roof of my mouth, and I can't read the rest unless it says love. It tastes incredible. Not everybody has this experience. The texture and flavor changed a few times, somebody's saying. So this is the experience. Somebody says focused on not swallowing too soon. So often, especially when we're stressed, and I want to bring it back to what we're going to now and make it very relevant, because so many people, that I meet, and I'm sure you and you yourself have this, are stressed right now with the process. I'm more attuned to the texture and flavor. Somebody else said I can see how the process of mindful eating can help us. So it's really, that's why it's so experiential. When we're stressed, we often go to our old habits, and often those are comfort foods. And comfort foods can be great, but often when we stress eat or eat too much, we don't feel so good after. And so this practice is a way of slowing down. Now, again, it's a practice. It wouldn't be realistic and it wasn't. I never finished that story. It wasn't realistic for me to live my life every 90 seconds taking a swallow. It can be a very antisocial practice, right? Because often we eat in social groups, well, the people that we're allowed to be near right now, right? But if there's anybody in your environment, but it's the flavor of this practice that you can carry into every single eating experience. And my next, and so this is a beautiful plate of really the concept of conscious eating, or really mindful eating, by Susan Albers, who's one of the leading experts in the world of mindful eating right now. She comes up with this plate kind of off of the USDA My Plate. And it's here, awareness is one of the keys. I think that's, the tasting versus mindless munching. So becoming more aware. This practice is about becoming conscious. And that's something we want to do in every aspect of our lives. Why not while eating? Why not while walking? Why not while talking? While doing everything, while working? So then there's savoring. It's a beautiful practice. There's so much joy in eating. We love to eat. And so often it's rediscovering that relationship with food, but sometimes we don't even get the experience of savoring it. And so this is really coming back to that experience of eating. And then there's observation. So you might begin to notice, physical sensations in your body. You may notice low energy, or if you're stressed, or if you're satisfied or full. And in the conscious eating practice, there's a lot of use of hunger scales. Before you eat or during your eating, you might tune in and say, well, how hungry am I on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like the most hungry I've ever been, 1, I can't eat at all, I'm not hungry, or maybe you're full. And that's a way to just observe, well, where am I? Well, maybe I don't really need to be eating because I'm already at a 9 and I'm about to grab for something. And so we begin to just become more aware and not go to those go-tos. It's about being in the moment, fully present. So turning off the TV, sitting down, and it's just about eating when you eat. And the last is non-judgment. Speaking, mindfully and compassionately, she says, and notice when shoulds and rigid rules or guilt prop into your mind. And that brings me to the end of this. I really wanted to end it with the non-judgment, because so many people I work with, I say conscious eating is a light practice. And I thought Dr. Madan was here, but I think he's not. So this was going to bring us into laughter yoga. Is that right, Dinesh? But,
Right. Thank
okay.
you so much. Thank you
But
so
this
much,
part,
Erika.
yeah, but this part I want to just make a point. So many people that I work with become very serious about the practice of mindful eating. And, you know, this last part about non-judgment, I hear a lot of, oh, I should have, you know, oh, I ate XYZ junk, you know, quote unquote junk food. I shouldn't have eaten it. I should be more mindful. And it's like it becomes this other chore on our list of things to do or guilt ourselves about. But really, it's the opposite. It's the most simple, easy thing to do. It's just about bringing your mind back, exactly like the breath, back to the moment of eating, recreating that first bite. Typically, we have one bite, and then you know, we go on automatic, and then maybe it's the last bite we enjoy again. So the practice, everybody is able to do this immediately. There's nothing you have to know to consciously eat. All you have to do is remember, oh yeah, I'm not tasting my food, bring it back, and there you are.